next, let's move on. And I am very pleased to introduce Sharu Maharjan. Sharu is partner and sector leader in charge of consumer goods, retail, travel, and transport with IBM services for ASEAN. And that's a huge portfolio, Sharu. So you must be kept busy a lot. Sharu, by the way, has over 20 years of end-to-end strategic consulting experience across multiple markets around the world. So, and this definitely spans several top consulting firms. So, Sharu, if I can lead to you, and would love to hear some of your thoughts, observations on women's leadership.
Thank you so much, Georgette, and good morning, everyone. It's just wonderful to be here, and as I hear everybody speak, a part of what they're saying resonates with me because the stories that we're telling today are all of our stories. So thank you for having us on this panel. You know, you've already introduced me by the role that I do. I've been in consulting for as long as I can remember now. And being in consulting means that you're in a job that's always on. And we work with clients to help them get ahead of their disruption, get them ahead of the chaos that they're going through. So we partner with clients very carefully to make sure that they are on a winning ticket. And in that, we become partners to our clients. And I use the word partner very carefully because that's where we're aspiring to be as women, partners to the people who are already in leadership positions. I'm going to take you back to a story, as I'm going to tell you a story. Just before COVID, when we were still flying, I was taking a flight back. So as a consultant, you know, we're on the road. We're on, you know, 2 or 3 flights in a week, every month, every year. So that's a lot of travel. So I was on a flight back. And I remember that on the way to the airport, I was on a call and, you know, I was accompanied by another male partner. So another senior executive. And when I put the phone down, we were rushing to catch our flight. He looked at me and said, "How does your husband manage? You know, aren't you working all the time? You're on calls all the time. What does your husband do? Poor guy." Now, my husband's a very successful career professional by himself. And we are very tightly aligned on our career goals. So I know that he manages just fine. But I turned around to this gentleman and said, "You know, you're working all the time, and I know that his wife doesn't work. How does your wife manage? That you're out of the house and not participating in any of the activities that she's doing," right? And for me, that was an interesting point because this man was obviously saying this without any kind of malice. He truly wanted to know. And this is the reason why, even in 2020, it's very, very important for us to talk about women in leadership and what it means for our families, for our societies, for the companies and businesses that we run, and the overall economy, right? This is a topic that is, you know, the more we become women leaders, the more important this topic becomes for us to discuss. Georgette, when we were talking about this event, I said to you, I'm very passionate about women at leadership and executive positions, and I'll tell you why. It is a proven fact, and we don't need to make a business case of it because it's statistically proven that female CEOs, CFOs have produced superior stock performance in 24 months following their appointment. 20% appreciation in stock value. They've defended their profitability moats better than their male peers. Their stock returns have been 8% higher. These results, I mean, let's take a minute to process these results. These results are economically, statistically significant. We also know that when women come into leadership positions, there is a general tendency of the board to become more female-centric. And as the board gets more female-centric, the value appreciation of the companies continues to happen. In fact, boards with more female, companies with greater gender diversity have boards which are almost double in terms of proportion than that to companies with less gender diversity. The most important point is, there has been a study conducted as late as last year, which shows that if you look at the average female leadership characteristic, average, and I emphasize average, and compare it to the total number of males in senior executive positions, the leadership characteristics are the same, which means talent and availability of talent, leadership effectiveness, if you normalize the biases, if you take out hiring without biases, is the same. Yet, in 2015, and John, you're there, you laugh at this, New York Times noted that there were fewer women in companies as CEOs than there were men named Johns. And it's changed a little bit. Maybe there are a few more, a few more women than Johns. But the truth is, today we've got 33 women at the top of Fortune 500 companies. Still 6% of the overall universe, but a bigger number than even 5 years ago when there were only 20 women at the top. Yet, the men to women ratio when you become a CEO is still 19:1. 19 men available to a CEO job than 1 woman available. 6.5 to 1 when it comes to a CFO. So there is an underrepresentation of women at the highest levels of our leadership. And we've just talked about how talent dispersion is the same, right? So yeah, so when we, and we also know in the last 3 or 4 years, the churn of male leadership is a lot higher than female leadership. And it's men who are replacing these other men. So you've got to take a step back and talk about the fact that if leadership effectiveness has been proven to be similar, the traits making women enter these positions as their male counterparts are similar, then what is still impacting the emergence of, the emergence of women through these corridors of power? There is a glass ceiling that still exists, right? And therefore, this is a topic that becomes very important, because when we as women in leadership positions are working to help our clients navigate chaos, you need resilience in your teams. You need adaptability in your teams. You need a holistic point of view. And that point of view only comes when you have gender balanced teams, when you have inclusive teams, teams represented by people who are underrepresented everywhere else. And therefore, and you hear me being passionate about this because there is no other way for us to be successful. And we're talking about this in 2020. So this is not a plea for inclusion. This is about recognizing the fact that as we are emerging out of this crisis, as we are reimagining the ways we work, we need to reimagine our place in the new ways of working, because without that, our recovery is not complete. So that's the reason why I feel very passionate about being on this panel, because what other way is there to think about resilience and not having women at the highest positions of power? So just sort of putting my stake in the ground there to talk about why I want to be here, why I want to talk about these topics with all of you, because it's important as women to talk about this and make room for other women. Thanks, Georgette. A bit of a long-winded opening.
No, please. I was taking copious notes here, and we will definitely be going back to revisit some of these topics. And I can feel the rest of the panelists at the edge of their seats that they're wanting to chip away at this one. I have no doubt we will lead in with this one later on. But thank you. We feel the passion, and I think we are all equally as passionate about this topic ourselves, which is why we're at this table right now. I love what you're saying about at the highest level, and in fact, as you may have seen the news late last night into early this morning, there's been just a new launch of a board diversity index, the first of its kind, that's taking multifacets, gender being one of them, but also everything else, including, job function, global experience, which I thought was really interesting, age, of ethnicity. There were eight different components, of which gender is one of them. It's a great one. So I encourage everybody on this call, go check it out. It's the Board Diversity Index that was launched by the Singapore Institute of Directors along with Willis Towers Watson yesterday. Great stuff. Thank you, Charu. And believe me, your passion comes through, no doubt about it. I'm very pleased to introduce our next panelist from all the way in London. So as you probably figured out, given time differences, it's 2 o'clock in the morning there, or way past 2, way past your bedtime. But the trooper that